Hello, mysterious person behind the screen. So, here I am again comparing different versions of a Spider-Man film. My videos on Spider-Man 2.1 and Spider-Man 3 The Editor's Cut went down super well a few years ago, so I thought I'd turn my attention to another alternate cut of Spider-Man 2. But this time, it's one that you might not be too familiar with. Spider-Man 2 The FX TV Cut. Bit of background here, TV cuts of films used to be a really common phenomena, especially in the 70s and 80s. TV networks would often air longer versions of films in order to maximise the revenue that they would gain from commercial breaks. The longer the movie, the more ad breaks you have, and in turn, more money for everyone involved. Often, these would just be instances where they would add deleted scenes back into the film, such as the 3-hour TV version of Superman the movie and its sequels, and the TV cut of John Carpenter's Halloween, which was actually a special case in that the new scenes were filmed specifically for that version during production of Halloween 2. But then you have weird oddities like the TV cut of Halloween 2, where that whole film is rearranged, extended, shortened, and generally just different in really odd ways. And then infamously, the ABC version of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which rearranged the entire narrative of the film, hired a new James Bond actor to record voiceover narration that appears throughout the movie, in a move which essentially changes what that whole film is. Put simply, TV cuts are fascinating to look at, and with the rise of streaming, seem to be a bit of a lost art. Nowadays, if you do see a film on TV, the only change that may be made to it is censorship. Enter the TV cut of Spider-Man 2, which premiered on FX on January 2nd, 2007, alongside a sneak peek for Spider-Man 3. It's never had an official release on home media or streaming, and currently it only survives via fan-made TV rips, complete with promos for upcoming shows. But what is the TV cut exactly? Well, essentially, this is the theatrical version of the film with an extended prologue, one new scene, and one extended scene that, although would later appear in the Spider-Man 2.1 extended cut, is edited completely differently here. You've seen the video length, this is not going to be a 40-minute long look at this version, it really is not a radically different experience, but I hope you find this interesting. This is Spider-Man 2, the TV cut. So, if you were expecting this cut to open with the familiar violin strings over the Columbia logo, well, you're in for a surprise here. The TV cut instead opens with a 3-minute recap of the previous film, as we fade in with Danny Elfman's Alone cue, and hear Tobey Maguire's narration that everybody knows from that first film.
Who am I? You sure you want to know? The story of my life is not for the faint of heart.
I've got to say, it isn't a terrible job at condensing a 2-hour film into 3 minutes, but it's very pointless. The opening credits do a fantastic job at giving a little recap in the form of beautifully rendered artwork courtesy of Alex Ross, so why they felt the need to tack this onto the start of the film is a bit beyond me. Maybe because they were showing a sneak peek of Spider-Man 3, they felt like they had to have some sort of representation of the first one there too, sort of a condensed trilogy if you like, but nah, this is just a bit pointless. Once we have the final shot of the first film, we're straight back into the iconic flipping pages of the Marvel logo and Elfman's familiar score, so it really does feel like it's something that's just been bolted on without much thought. Now we come to the most heavily tinkered with scene in this cut, the backyard conversation with Peter and MJ. Firstly, we get a new line from MJ that doesn't appear in any other version.
Nothing.
I know the feeling. Sometimes you want to say something, but it won't come out. Do you want to say something?
I quite like this actually. It was obviously cut for time and it is a bit redundant, but it does show that she's opening herself up to Peter, giving him plenty of chances to let her into his life. We also get an alternate take of this line.
Oh boy, yeah. What? Oh boy, yeah, what?
You'll notice alternate editing where shots cut away in different places, for example here, where the TV cut doesn't cut away from Peter. The scene has music much earlier, and it's bits of the score that don't appear in the theatrical or extended cuts. And the big thing that's happened really is we get a couple new shots here and there, for example this shot, and this new wide of Peter that now ends the scene as he stares longingly after MJ. Now I'm actually going to show here on screen the theatrical, extended, and TV cuts at the same time, so you can get a full idea of what's changed. This will be a little bit tricky, however, because it's literally impossible for me to show every single change to this scene like I usually do. I'd say about 90% of the shots have been tinkered with in one way or another. Most of the shots are a couple of frames shorter, a couple of frames longer. Sometimes the TV cut holds on one character or cuts away when the other cuts don't. Sometimes there's music behind the TV cut shots where there isn't in the other versions. It was only when I hopped in to edit this video that I realised just how heavily tinkered with this whole scene is. I've kind of never seen anything like it. It feels like an assembly of the original scene. So it's an interesting insight into the editing process, but Jesus Christ, does it make my job in this video really difficult, so bear with me. It's so funny how there are 3 versions of this one scene and each one is edited completely differently. The TV cut is basically a variation of the 2.1 version, just slightly extended, and I think it's clear that a lot of these additions were done to extend and pad out the film a little bit, which, I mean, this does somewhat confuse me because this is the only scene in the film that's been edited this way. Why not also extend the conversation with the Doctor like 2.1 did, or include the scene of MJ and Louise shoe shopping? None of the extensions like that are found in this TV cut, which makes this strange extended recut version of the backyard conversation all the more incongruous. Obviously the main thing to note for fans is the new shots that we get scattered throughout, and it is really cool to see this stuff, as brief as it is. There's a reason that Bob Murawski didn't include these to begin with, though. The scene flows much better without them. One of the beautiful things about the whole scene is that the camera gets closer and closer to Peter and MJ as their connection goes deeper, evolving into an almost extreme close-up until the crucial point that it becomes clear that they cannot connect and Peter won't let her in emotionally, and that's when the camera pulls back far wider. It's a wonderful use of the camera, perfect visual storytelling through the filmmaking, mirroring the emotions of our two leads beautifully. And so when the TV cut inserts a random mid-shot of Peter and MJ, it does disrupt the flow entirely and ruins that element of visual storytelling that Raimi and co worked so hard to create. Though I actually do think the new wide of Peter at the end works great. Of the 3 versions, for me the 2.1 cut is the best here. It's the perfect balance between extending the film while keeping the flow of the scene intact.
That's good.
Immediately after that, following an ad break, we get a brand new scene, one that doesn't appear in any form in the other 2 cuts. Peter comes home, locks up his bike outside, and walks in. That's it. And in the process, as it's now redundant, we lose the establishing shot of the apartment that features in the theatrical and extended versions. There really isn't much for me to talk about here. This is a textbook example of a deleted scene that adds absolutely nothing to the film. The establishing shot in the other 2 cuts is quicker and more efficient in every way. Again, there is a definite novelty here in seeing new footage, but there's nothing much of interest here. Next, we have a few more small little trims that the TV cut makes to fit in those all-important ad breaks. The shot of Peter watching MJ leave in the taxi fades out quickly to commercials, removing a couple of seconds from that scene. Peter walking away after his fall also meets a similar fate, which is a big shame as we lose the car alarm gag. Likewise, Octavius falling into the river has also been shortened to lead into an ad break, and curiously, the TV cut removes a shot of MJ and John when they're planning their wedding. John's dialogue is now moved to play much earlier on in the scene, which compensates for the difference. It's a hard one to explain, but here's a short comparison.
Honey, you sure you don't want to invite your friend, the photographer? Peter Parker?
Oh, positive.
Honey, you sure you don't want to invite your friend, the photographer? Peter Parker?
Oh, positive.
No idea where this happened, to be honest. The scene does follow an ad break, so maybe it was a case of having a better transition from the ads, but I mean, the shot that it removes isn't even the first shot of the scene, so I don't know why there was a desire to remove it here. The scene is now missing an establishing shot of the location, and although it doesn't impact it too much, again, the flow of editing and geography in the scene is disrupted somewhat. I don't understand why they felt the need to go in and tinker with the shots this way. Also, as is common with most films when they air on telly, we have massively sped up and condensed end credits. The Dashboard Confessional and Train songs are completely gone, so Michael Bublé's version of the Spider-Man theme is the only song that plays now.
Miss Brandt?
Yes.
Get me a violin.
And that's it. I told you there really wasn't much to the TV cut, but I do think it's an interesting little curiosity for die-hard fans of these films. In my head, I always had this version down as essentially the same as 2.1, but with that extra scene of Peter arriving at the apartment, but obviously that isn't the case, and we have none of the major extended scenes from 2.1. So maybe there was a bit of a hesitation to put all of that stuff into this version, as at the time this aired, 2.1 was still a few months away from being released on DVD, so perhaps they didn't want to give that version to people for free on TV, and potentially hurt sales of that release. Like I say, I really don't know who was behind this. I can buy FX wanting to give people a little bonus for tuning in, hence the sneak peek for Spidey 3 that played after the film, but making those little trims and adding more footage early on is a really odd move. Let's be honest, nobody is going to choose to watch the TV cut as their main version of the film, but I'm thankful that fans have preserved it as an interesting little relic for Raimi obsessives to take a little look at. I hope you find this video engaging and informative. I'm always going through these films like a fine-tooth comb, and I know you guys are the same. I love finding new things and quirks hidden within my favourite movie trilogy, and things like the TV cut only enhance my appreciation and love for them. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in my next one. Take care now.
See ya.
Spider-Man!